David Beckham stepped into the grand lobby of a luxury hotel, but none of the staff had any idea that he was the new owner of the entire hotel chain. Today, Beckham wasn't wearing an expensive suit or any of the designer clothes that would make heads turn. Instead, he chose to dress as simply as possible: a pair of faded blue jeans, a plain white t-shirt, and an open checkered shirt over it. A baseball cap covered part of his familiar face, and he wore simple sneakers. He didn't want attention. He wanted to come to the hotel just like any ordinary guest. The lobby was breathtaking: polished marble floors, high ceilings with sparkling crystal chandeliers, and leather sofas arranged neatly across the space. A soft classical tune played in the background, adding to the elegant and peaceful atmosphere. Beckham sat down quietly near the window, observing everything around him. In his hand was a plain white envelope containing all the legal documents proving he had bought the hotel chain. But today he wasn't here as an owner to be welcomed with fanfare. He was here to see with his own eyes how the staff treated everyday guests. Beckham pretended to scroll through his phone but was really watching the scene. An elderly couple entered the lobby, dressed modestly. The man, clearly in his 70s, walked with a cane, accompanied by his tired-looking wife. They approached the front desk where Jessica, a young receptionist with a sharp, impatient face, stood waiting. Jessica gave them that look Beckham knew all too well from his childhood, when his mother was a cleaning lady and often looked down upon. "Do you have a reservation?" Jessica asked coldly, eyeing them as if they were a nuisance. The wife smiled gently. "Yes, we called this afternoon. The name is Eleanor Smith." Jessica tapped a few keys, then frowned. "I don't see that name. Do you have a confirmation number?" The woman fumbled through her purse, her hands trembling. "I'm sorry. I didn't print it, but I have the confirmation code on my phone." Jessica cut her off. "If you don't have a printed confirmation or the code ready, I can't help you. Please step aside for other guests." Beckham saw it all. His blood boiled, but he kept his composure. He stood up and walked over quietly, smiling kindly at the couple. "May I take a look? Maybe I can help." The elderly man hesitated, then handed him the phone. Beckham quickly spotted the reservation details. He turned to Jessica, still calm. "Here's their booking confirmation. Could you please check again?" Jessica shot Beckham an annoyed look, sizing him up. "And who are you to get involved? You don't work here." "I'm just trying to help," Beckham replied gently. "I saw they were having trouble." Jessica grudgingly re-entered the details and realized the booking was indeed valid. Her face stiffened, but she forced a smile. I see. Please wait here a moment." The couple thanked Beckham, their eyes full of gratitude. As they were led away, Beckham found himself standing face to face with Jessica, and the tension began to rise. Jessica folded her arms, glaring at him. "What are you doing here? If you're not a guest, don't block the counter." Beckham smiled softly. "I'm waiting for a client. I'm just sitting quietly." "Then please wait somewhere else. This lobby isn't for people loitering around." Her tone grew sharper. Beckham looked her in the eye, his gentle smile unwavering. "I'm not loitering. I'm a guest. I'm just waiting." Jessica huffed, muttering under her breath as she turned away, but she was clearly irritated. Who was this casually dressed man meddling in her work? Not long after, Beckham approached the desk again. "Could you check if my room is ready?" Jessica raised an eyebrow. "Your name?" "David Beckham." Jessica frowned, clearly thinking it was a joke. "You're joking, right? David Beckham? Do you have proof of booking?" Beckham reached into his shirt pocket and took out the envelope. "I do have documents, but I don't think it's necessary to show them just yet." Jessica grew impatient. "If you can't prove it, I'll have to ask you to leave. This is a 5-star hotel. We can't have random people wandering around." At this point, other guests started to notice. A boy tugged his mother's sleeve and whispered, "Mom, doesn't that look like Beckham?" His mother glanced over and shook her head. "No way. Beckham wouldn't be dressed like that." Beckham sighed. He thought he was used to these looks, but it still stung. He wasn't sad for himself. He was thinking of all the others who faced this kind of treatment daily. Jessica still didn't realize who she was dealing with. She turned to call security. Beckham's voice was soft. "There's no need for that. I'm just waiting. But if you insist, I can show you my papers." Jessica snapped. "Don't think acting polite will get you special treatment. I'm calling security now." Just then, a younger staff member, Mark, rushed over, eyes wide as he recognized Beckham. "Oh my God, that's David Beckham." "Jessica, don't you see?" Jessica froze as if struck by lightning. Her arrogant stare turned to shock. She looked closer, The posture, the face, that familiar kind smile, it all clicked. The lobby fell silent. Beckham stood there, holding his envelope, his eyes kind yet sad. He didn't want people bowing down to him, he just wanted the basic respect every guest deserved. The Grand Hotel lobby, once glowing under the crystal chandeliers, now felt heavy with silence. The soft hum of conversation had vanished. Every gaze, every breath, every gesture was now focused on the man standing quietly at the front desk. The man in simple clothes who showed no anger, no desire for revenge. David Beckham stood calm, but deep within his eyes lay a sadness and disappointment so profound that it unsettled everyone who met his gaze. Jessica, the once proud and cold receptionist, felt as if her feet were nailed to the marble floor. Her hands trembled, her heart pounded so hard she thought it might burst from her chest. Every word she had said earlier, every look of disdain she had given him, echoed in her mind like lashes across her dignity. She tried to speak, but her throat tightened. No words came out. Beckham's gaze wasn't that of a man seeking retribution. It was a gaze that seemed to peel back the layers of arrogance she had built around herself over the years. Slowly, without rush, he reached into his jacket pocket, pulling out the now slightly crumpled envelope he had held tightly while waiting. His movements were deliberate, without show. He placed the documents gently on the cold marble counter. On top was the signed purchase contract for the hotel, the official red seal as undeniable as the truth it bore. Soft whispers rippled through the lobby. Guests who had been sipping tea or reading newspapers now leaned forward, drawn to the scene unfolding before them. That's him, my God. David Beckham, here? And she treated him like that. Mark, the young staff member who had recognized Beckham, stood frozen, guilt and worry written across his face. His eyes flicked to Jessica, wanting to help but not knowing how. Beckham's voice rang out, low, steady but with the weight of truth. I don't need an apology simply because you now realize who I am. What I hope you understand is that every guest, no matter who they are or how they look, deserves respect. The words fell like heavy stones, breaking the stillness, making the grandeur of the chandeliers and leather chairs seem meaningless. Jessica felt the chill seep into her bones. Tears welled in her eyes. She remembered how, once upon a time, she dreamed of being a receptionist who made guests feel at home, how she had promised herself to treat everyone like family. And yet, here she was, betraying that promise for a fleeting sense of superiority. At that moment, Mr. Allen burst in, sweat on his brow. When his eyes met Beckham's, he froze in shock, then bowed deeply, his voice trembling. Mr. Beckham, I sincerely apologize. If we'd known you were visiting today, we would have prepared a proper welcome. Beckham lifted his hand, stopping him. I don't need a grand welcome. I didn't come for special treatment. I came to see what this place is when no spotlight shines on its guests. The silence deepened. Jessica stood there, stripped of her pride, tears streaming down her cheeks. She no longer clung to excuses, only shame and sorrow for how far she'd strayed from who she once wanted to be. Beckham inhaled deeply, his eyes sweeping over the faces of those watching. His voice softened, carrying warmth that filled the room. My mother was a cleaner. I watched people look down on her because of her uniform. But she taught me that a person's true worth lies in how they treat others, not in what they wear or own. The elderly guest Beckham had helped earlier stepped forward, his hand finding Beckham's, his voice thick with emotion. Thank you. You've reminded us that kindness still exists. Jessica could no longer contain her sobs. Her voice cracked as she tried to speak through the tears. I have no excuse. I forgot who I was. I'm truly sorry. Beckham's voice was gentle now. I'm not here to take away anyone's job. I'm here because I want this hotel to be remembered not just for its chandeliers or fine furniture, but for the way it makes people feel valued. Mr. Allen nodded, eyes glistening. We will change. I promise you that. A breeze seemed to move through the lobby, not a cold wind but a breeze of hope, of a new beginning. Mark quietly stepped forward, resting a hand on Jessica's shoulder in silent support. She lifted her gaze and saw no judgment in the eyes around her. Only encouragement, only the reminder that she could still make it right. And Beckham smiled, not the smile of a man who had won a battle, but of one who had planted a seed of kindness in the hearts of all who witnessed that moment. After that moment of silence, it felt as if the lobby had been washed clean. The tension was gone. No more judging glances. In its place was reflection, a kind of honesty that hadn't existed there before. Mr. Allen, still standing beside Beckham, took a deep breath, steadied himself, and spoke with sincerity. Mr. Beckham, if you allow, I would like to arrange a meeting with the entire staff right now. I want them to hear your words because I believe today's lesson can change not just how we serve, but who we are inside." Beckham nodded, warmth in his eyes. "If this meeting comes from the heart and not as a formality, then I'm happy to do it." Within the hour, the hotel's main hall was ready. Over 70 staff members from the front desk, housekeeping, restaurant, and security gathered, their faces filled with anxiety, regret, and hope. They had heard what had happened. They knew this was not just another meeting, it was a chance to look inward. Beckham stood at the front. No grand stage. No fancy microphone. Just him, simple and strong. The room was silent, as if holding its breath. His gaze moved from face to face, from young staff unsure of themselves to veterans with streaks of gray in their hair. He began, his voice steady, his words echoing across the hall. "I stand here today not because I'm the new owner. I stand here because I'm human. And I believe what gives a place true worth is how its people treat one another. A hotel can have chandeliers, fine leather chairs, and marble floors. But without kindness and respect, it's nothing but cold stone." He paused, letting the words sink in. No one looked away. Some had tears in their eyes already. Beckham spoke of his childhood, of his mother the cleaner, of the times they were judged for their worn clothes and lack of fancy cars. "I never forgot my mother's words. She told me, 'Son, you can become anything, but what makes you worth something is how you treat others.' That's why I stand here today. And I hope each of you leaves this room with one simple truth: let kindness lead the way." Jessica sat at the back, eyes still wet, but now filled with determination. She knew today's lesson wasn't about shame. It was a chance to start over. Beckham continued, his voice softer. "I don't need you to remember my name. I only hope that every guest who walks through these doors leaves with a warm memory. A smile, a greeting, a small act of care can brighten even the saddest day." Mr. Allen stood, his voice thick with emotion. "From today we will change. I promise you, Mr. Beckham, and I promise myself. We will build a new training program not to memorize rules, but to awaken the kindness inside each of us." Applause filled the room, not out of duty but from the heart. Beckham smiled, the smile of a man who didn't seek glory, only to plant seeds of goodness. And change came. Jessica was the first to sign up for the new training. She began greeting guests with genuine warmth, no longer scanning for appearances. Mark became a quiet leader, reminding others of the power of kindness. Weeks later, a letter was left at the front desk, unsigned. Read, "Today I was welcomed with sincerity, though I am not wealthy and was dressed simply. For the first time in a long while, I felt truly respected. Thank you." Mr. Allen read the letter aloud at the weekly staff meeting. As he finished, the room fell silent, and then erupted in applause and warm smiles. Beckham never returned as the grand owner seeking attention. He didn't post on social media. He gave no interviews. For him, the greatest value was in the quiet change that had taken root. Later, Jessica wrote Beckham a handwritten letter. She said, "You didn't just change how I work. You changed how I live. I'm grateful you chose compassion over power. You woke me up." And from that day forward, the hotel became a place where guests felt welcome not for its marble or chandeliers, but for the kindness that lived in its people.